In today's video, we head off to the home of the Great Lakes in the United States, where we will explore the haunted history of two of the most haunted places in Michigan. The first is a place that was built from riches and prestige, a place whose owner died weeks after completion, but to this day has never left. And the second is a tale of a lighthouse keeper who so loved his work that he still keeps the light lit even in death. Welcome to Haunted Origins, where we explore the haunted history of some of the most haunted places in the world. We have a new story for you every week, so please be sure to like and subscribe and turn on all notifications so you never miss a story. It was an early December day on Michigan's west coast. Patty and her assistant were in charge of getting a large mansion overlooking Lake Michigan ready for the upcoming Christmas holiday. Patty had just put a new ornate rug in the mansion's main bedroom as part of a restoration project taking place in the large home over the last 4 years. While the two were in the middle of their decorating work, Patty walked by the main bedroom and noticed that the new rug was bunched up in the corner of the room. Finding this a little odd, Patty returned the rug to its original place and continued with her work. Later on in the day, as she was again walking past the main bedroom, the rug was once again bunched up in the corner of the room. A little frustrated now, Patty moved the rug to its original position and continued with her day. Now, assuming that it was her assistant behind the mysterious rug movement, Patty was sure to work alongside of her for the next couple hours. They decorated together, not thinking or discussing anything about the mysterious rug. Toward the end of their day, Patty was getting ready to close everything up when she walked by the main bedroom. And this time, the new rug was completely gone. Taken aback, she looked around the main bedroom, and the rug was nowhere to be seen. She made her way into the next bedroom, and to her astonishment, there was the rug, bunched up in the corner. Not bothering to move the rug back again, Patty quickly grabbed her belongings and left the mansion, done working for that day. This is one of many stories of the hauntings by Agnes, the ghost of the Felt Mansion, and this is her story. Dorr Felt was born in 1862 in Beloit, Wisconsin, where he grew up on the family farm. His father was a valued member of the community and worked on the Wisconsin State Assembly. Despite this, Dorr and his family did not have much money. In fact, this lack of money is what drove Dorr's resourcefulness to become a great inventor. At the age of 14, Dorr had enough of school. He felt he learned what he needed and was off to find a more specialized learning through an apprenticeship at a local machine shop. By the age of 18, he was ready to put his mark on the world, so he left home with only 50 cents in his pocket for the big city of Chicago. In Chicago, he was able to use his machine knowledge to get a job on the maintenance crew with the Pullman Company. He was very successful with this and quickly rose through the ranks to foreman. His entrepreneurial mindset wouldn't let him settle, so he dabbled in sewing machine sales for a time, but quickly returned to his machining roots. All the while, he was thinking up his own inventions. His most famous invention was the comptometer, which was an early version of the calculator. It was prototyped using a macaroni box, skewers, staples, and rubber bands. He took this invention to Chicago businessman Robert Tarrant, and the two of them created a partnership that would make both of them some of the richest inventors of the time. With his growing financial success underway, Dorr was ready to settle down and start a family. He married Agnes McNulty in 1891, and they quickly started a family, having 4 daughters. They never left Chicago as their home, but they regularly took summer holiday on Michigan's west coast. In the early 20th century, this coast was known as the Midwest Riviera, and Dorr and Agnes fell in love. Dorr quickly purchased 750 acres of coastline, naming it Shore Acres Farms. On the farm, he started a zoo, where he dug dens and tunnels for an assortment of animals that the locals could enjoy. But the ultimate plan for this property was to build a family compound for Dorr and Agnes, as well as the families of their 4 daughters. What would come of this was a 12,000 square foot mansion with 25 bedrooms and a 3rd-floor ballroom. This was more than enough space for the entire family to spend the summer months together. Construction of this large house began in 1925 and was finally completed in 1928. This house was the completion of a dream for Dorr and Agnes, and Dorr dedicated the house to his beloved wife, naming it Agnes House. Unfortunately, the dream come true was short-lived, and this is where the haunting reality of our story begins. Agnes tragically passed away from an undisclosed illness just 6 short weeks after they moved in. She passed in the mansion in the main bedroom. Her death was a tragedy to the local community, as Agnes had already become a well-standing member of the community garden club. Agnes' love for Shore Acres and her big house, as she called it, were so strong that some say her spirit has never left. The story of what is now known as the Felt Mansion does not end here. The Felt family's prominence quickly faded as tragedy struck once again, when Dorr died from a stroke within 2 years of Agnes. What Dorr left behind to his family was a business that was quickly becoming obsolete, and a property that needed an extensive amount of upkeep. All in all, everything from the Comptometer business to Shore Acres farm, including the mansion, were sold by the end of 1949. The property and mansion were purchased by the St. Augustine Catholic Seminary, where a school was constructed on the property, and the mansion was used as housing for both priests and students. This continued until 1977, when the Felt estate was purchased by the state of Michigan and converted into a state police post. The school portion was then converted into the Saugatuck Dune Correction Facility. The Felt Mansion and the surrounding estate were sold again in 1995 to the Laketown Township for $1, with the stipulation that the mansion be preserved as a historical building and that it be owned and operated by the public. The mansion fell further and further into decay, housing the spirits of what once was, until 2002, when the Friends of the Felt Estate formed and began an effort to restore the mansion to its former glory. Today, the mansion has been fully restored and is available for visitors year-round. Even today, the presence of Dorr and Agnes can be felt, as they enjoy an eternal dance in their house of dreams. It was a quiet May evening in the northern wilderness of Michigan. Lorraine was driving back to her home where she was the museum caretaker at one of Michigan's oldest lighthouses. She had just enjoyed a wonderful dinner with her daughter, but her feelings were a little bittersweet knowing her late husband George would have enjoyed the evening as much as she did. As she was headed down the winding road, she could just catch a glimpse of the old lighthouse, and to her astonishment, the light atop the tower was illuminated. This was such a shock to Lorraine, because more than 20 years earlier, when her and George took on caring for this lighthouse, they disconnected the electricity to the tower. She sped down the small dirt road leading up to the tower, and as she looked up at the tower, it was completely dark. A little confused, she went on with her night and off to bed. The next morning, she climbed the tower to investigate further, and to her surprise, the light was still indeed cut off from electricity. As unsettling as that mysterious light was, it was also comforting to think the light could be a message from her beloved George. This is his story. Presque Isle, Michigan is located on the northeast coast of Michigan on Lake Huron, the second largest of the 5 Great Lakes. The area gets its name from French explorers, naming it because of its unique peninsula, or almost island geography. In the early 1800s, when ship traffic was becoming more prominent on the Great Lakes, the Board of Navy Commissioners set out to make a system of lights throughout the lakes to mark shipping lanes and harbors. In 1837, Presque Isle Harbor was selected for its ability to be a safe haven for all classes of vessel during severe storms. A plot of land was selected in 1838, and construction of the Presque Isle Lighthouse began, with completion in the late summer of 1840. The property consisted of the 31-foot tower that was lit by 11 lamps around a 14-inch reflector, producing a flashing light. There was also a 1.5-story home built just north of the tower to house the keeper assigned to maintain the tower. The first modification to the lighthouse occurred in 1857, when a 4th-order Fresnel lens was placed atop the tower, this changing the light from flashing to a steady white light. By 1866, it was becoming obvious that the harsh weather conditions of northern Michigan had taken a toll on the light tower and its dwelling. Extensive repairs were in order and approved in 1867 by Congress. But just as repairs were about to kick off, a change in direction was ordered. Instead of spending the money on repairs, the Lighthouse Board would put those funds toward an entirely new lighthouse, just a mile north on the tip of the peninsula. This new tower would be larger and be accompanied by 2 range lights to better guide ships not only into the harbor, but around the Michigan coast. The new lighthouse was complete in 1871, and the old lighthouse was abandoned. Its lantern room and lens were removed and shipped off to be used at a different location. The current keeper, Patrick Garrity, his wife, and their 5 kids, all packed up and moved to be the first keepers of the new Presque Isle Lighthouse. The old lighthouse, which it was now known as, stayed abandoned and owned by the US government until it was sold at public auction in 1897. The property passed through a few owners until it was purchased in a tax sale by Bliss Stebbins for $70. Bliss came from a well-off family in Lansing and was himself well known for his work as a milliner, which is the maker of lavish women's hats worn by the elite of his time. Bliss was in the process of building a hotel on the nearby Grand Lake and purchased this property as a park for his hotel guests. After some time, Bliss sold the property to his nephew Francis Stebbins, who planned to use the property as a summer cottage. At this point, the keeper's house on the property was so dilapidated that it was completely unusable, and Francis elected to tear it down. In its place, he built a new residence that still stands on the property today. In the 1950s, Stebbins went on to refurbish the light tower as well and opened the property as a museum, collecting different Great Lake artifacts to put on display. Once Francis passed in 1968, he left the lighthouse and property to his son James. James would continue the historical traditions of the lighthouse by hiring college-aged girls to dress in 1800s-style clothing to give guided tours of the lighthouse and surrounding property. This continued until 1977, when James decided to hire George and Lorraine Paris, a local retired couple, to be the permanent caretakers of the property. George was a beloved presence at the lighthouse, routinely giving tours, and he especially loved entertaining the visiting children. George continued his dedication to the lighthouse until 1992, when tragically George suffered a massive heart attack. George's passing was not only a great loss to Lorraine, but he had become a fixture missed by all those who had visited. The property was then sold in 1995 by James Stebbins to the Presque Isle Township, where it continues to be run as a museum and gift shop to this day. That eerie May night when Lorraine spotted the illuminated light atop the tower was not the last time the lighthouse would light the night sky. Lorraine would go on to see the light a few more times, but keep this to herself, thinking she was just a little crazy. That was until others would go on to witness the light, but upon further investigation drive up to the tower only for it to be dark again. The light was even spotted by the Air National Guard while flying over the area on a mission, and later by the local Coast Guard, who investigated to find that the electricity to the light was indeed cut off. These sightings were classified as simply unexplained. Even today, many people report seeing the light on from a distance, marking a sign from George that the spirit of the lighthouse is alive and well. That will do it for today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please press the like button and click the link to listen to our other origin stories to some of the most haunted places. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the latest episode of Haunted Origins.